The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Kevin calling from Parallel Edge. We're doing another webinar. It's been a while since we've done this, Sandra. How long has it been? Like 2 or 3 months?
Been a couple of months, yeah.
I think the last one was, it's probably cybersecurity, but because I've been doing so many of those seminars lately, it's tough to keep track. It's been great just going to, people's places of business instead of just talking to my computer and doing these seminars in person. And it's amazing how quickly things change. I mean, just this morning, there was something on ABC News about, web cameras and Nest cameras being hacked. I mean, how crazy is that? You have somebody coming over that monitor.
That was scary, yes.
Yeah. So if anybody's out there and wants me to come out, just kind of give you a refresher on cybersecurity, I'd be more than happy to do that. I love presenting to them. But today we're going to be talking about InFocus software. InFocus is, pretty much the go-to program when it comes to project management, accounting that's specifically geared towards AEC industry. There's two titans that are out there that we normally talk about, which is Deltek and Clearview InFocus. We wanted to bring in InFocus just to talk to you guys about what they could bring to the table. Maybe you already have Deltek and maybe you're thinking about switching. Maybe you have nothing and you want to just kind of dip your toe in the water about, these things. I mean, how many of our companies, Sandra, can you estimate, already talk about InFocus or Deltek? I mean, there's a good handful.
I think we probably have about 4 or 5 clients that are using InFocus, and then we have another handful that's using Deltek.
Yeah, and usually when they go under a certain mark, they're thinking maybe I don't want to do this, maybe I don't want to, maybe it'll be too expensive. But from what I've been reading about Clearview InFocus, they really try to help you out. So when it comes to server software, they give you a version that you can install on the server, but they also have an online version. So we're going to be talking with Gerald today. Gerald is with us from Clearview Software. He's worked with architects and engineers for over 14 years. He's been beginning as an IT manager from a multidiscipline engineering firm. He managed Deltek products before being introduced to Clearview. And in 2013, his firm switched over to Clearview InFocus. And then in 2014, he was hired on by Clearview. And he's done truckloads of these webinars. We're really happy to have him here today. Gerald, are you there?
Yes. Thanks, Kevin.
Absolutely. So, Gerald, you're going to be talking to us today, giving some demos. So what are we looking at today? What's our agenda?
So this is our standard Intro to InFocus agenda. Typically, we ask some questions of the audience. We'll share a little bit of information about Clearview software, who we are, the service and software that we offer, and then we'll get right into the demo.
Okay.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be managing the chat, so if anybody has any specific questions or comments or anything, we'd like to just reach out to Gerald. We'll be monitoring that, and we'll pass those questions on to Gerald.
Thanks, Kev.
Yep. Great. Thanks. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. My next slide here, we didn't set up any actual poll collection screens here, but if you'd like to share this information with us in chat or a question, it can be helpful for targeting the demo so we know who we're talking to, what you're currently using, we can compare and contrast, things like that. So if you'd like to share what your role is with your company, what accounting system that you're currently using, what's your most important goals in either improving your accounting system or ERP system or switching, and then let us know what frustrates you most about your current system. And we'll pause for a moment, see if we get any answers there, and then we'll go ahead and move on. All right. Let's see.
So we're still waiting. IT coordinator from Colleen.
Great. All right. So thanks for responding. Keep on responding if you can. It does help me target and show you exactly what you want to see. So the next slide here is why partner with Clearview. Clearview Software is our company, and we are the developer of InFocus. InFocus is the product that I'm going to show you today. We were founded in 2007 by some industry veterans who wanted to offer an option to the status quo. Clearview exists essentially because there was a gap in the marketplace. Firms were looking for better software, better support. So we are here to fill that gap. We've been profitable since 2008 and have grown organically with our customers ever since then. Through continuous improvement and value creation for our customers, we have continued to grow pretty well year over year with our customers, with the firms that use our software. In fact, the average employee growth of our firms is about 220%. We also try very hard to keep our customers happy, whether that's excellent support, implementing features that they are looking for, or training them on how to use the system. We try very hard to do a great job at that. We do have an excellent client retention year over year, 98.6%. You can see right there. And then all of this is supported by a recent survey by PSMJ. They are out there on the internet. They do a lot of surveys in this industry in A&E. And what this survey says, summarized, is that our customers are more satisfied than the field. I encourage you to check out the survey. It's a really great survey. It's got a lot of information about all vendors in this space, and we show pretty well. So what is InFocus? InFocus is an ERP system. We typically define that as a project-based accounting and project management system. It means that it can help you on the front end and back end of your business. It is designed for the way AE firms work. Professional services firms work very well with our software. 90% of our customers are some form of architecture or engineering firm. The software itself is highly configurable and customizable. If you're using QuickBooks or some legacy ERP systems, you may be very limited in how you can set up your system, the dashboards and reports that you can view. InFocus is essentially a platform for your business management. It can do a lot of things, and you can personalize it in such a way that it matches your firm exactly.
So that's a good question. I mean, if somebody already is in QuickBooks right now and they've come to the hilt of, what they're doing in QuickBooks, their company's growing, what would be the transition path, to move any kind of data from QuickBooks into InFocus? Do you have something like that, or do they just have to cut bait and move on?
Absolutely. So since we got started 10 years ago, the way that we started out in the business is developing data conversions to bring in data from other vendors. So we have done many conversions from QuickBooks and Deltek products, even Peachtree and now Sage products. So we can bring in that data, that transactional history, and fit it into InFocus based on best practices. We would do a discovery and explain how we can take that data and migrate it and translate it to InFocus so that you can bring in all that historical data and get immediate value on that history that you have. You can use our dashboards. You can go into your transactions, modify them just as if they were entered in InFocus natively.
Great, thank you.
So other ways InFocus can help. Here are some highlights that we hear a lot of great feedback on. Our unofficial motto here is through automation, efficiency, and awareness. InFocus is much more than just an accounting system. It can be your workflow system. It can automate processes. It can be your single source of truth. Essentially, it's where your project data lives, your invoice data, your accounting data, and it can reach out to other systems and pull data or push data out to those. So it's very effective there. It can also increase invoicing efficiency. A lot of the firms that come over from QuickBooks or some legacy ERP systems are taking literally weeks to generate invoices, through the bill review process, collecting information from project managers, creating drafts, and then, getting sign off on those and getting them out the door. It takes a long time. We have reduced many firms from weeks to days or even hours generating invoices. And we'll touch on that with our automated invoicing in the demo here momentarily. Again, automating is a big part of InFocus, whether you're automating tasks on your local network, automating functionality within InFocus, or integrating and automating connections to other third-party products like your payroll system or a electronic document system, things like that. You can do that within InFocus with our actions. And then, of course, visibility. That's a big part of it. Dashboards and reports. Lots of firms that are using old legacy ERP systems or even QuickBooks are relying on their accounting team to provide them data. You know, the project managers have to go to the accounting team to see what's going on the project, or principals have to ask accounting to run a report for them. You don't have to do that in InFocus. You can set up dashboards and information that those staff members need, those stakeholders, so that they have information at their fingertips. And essentially, what we're trying to do with all these highlights is provide you a significant return on your investment of using Clearview InFocus and partnering with us as a company so that we create that value for you. So I speak, and we do as well, just everybody at the company, we speak a lot about service and support. How are we different? How do we offer better service and support? Well, one way, and especially if you're technical, you've probably heard this phrase before, we eat our own dog food. That means that we actually use our own product internally. We run our business on InFocus. We view our performance in dashboards. We enter our time on timesheets. We even use our dashboards to connect to our support system in other secondary databases to view that data there. So it's very effective, and it gives us insight that you won't have with other vendors that aren't using their own product. And using their own product is pretty rare, actually. So that's one way that we set ourselves apart. Also, we in-house our support. Everyone at Clearview, anyone on our support site or support is an employee of Clearview, and they're all power users of InFocus. So you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. They're not reading off of a screen. We offer great ticket satisfaction. We collect information on our tickets. Every ticket that goes out, when it's closed, it asks the user how we did. And since we started doing this over 5 years ago, we're at 98.4%, which I think is pretty great considering, the complexity of ERP systems. And over here on the right, we've actually got a tag cloud that one of our developers created that has all the text feedback from those ticket comments that we've received over the last 5 years. We also offer unlimited phone support so that you don't have to pay more for excellent support versus the crappy support with just being a customer. We've got excellent support for all customers through our support site, our own homegrown support site, so that all customers feel that they're getting the support that they need. So the next screen here is ongoing development. We are very active in the development of the software, and we're very active in our user community to find out what our users want. We average 1.5 major releases per year, and everything that we've ever developed for InFocus has been rolled out under one license, meaning we haven't created separate modules that we wanted to sell you separately. Everything that we've developed in 10 years has been offered to our existing customer base. We source all of those developments from our InFocus ideas. Under our support site, we have an area where you can log in, submit ideas that you want to see, enhancement requests, things like that in InFocus, and you can view others and vote them up to show your support. We also have a marketplace, which is essentially an app store for InFocus. So years ago, we decided that many of our firms, as firms want other reports, designs, invoice designs, dashboards, and things like that, maybe not everyone wants to see all of those features or extensions. So we started putting them out here in our marketplace where you can go and review and pick and choose what reports you like, dashboards, and things like that, so that you really have the power over seeing, the cool new things that we're putting out there, even in between major releases. Also this year, we rolled out an API management utility so that we can create API endpoints and integrate with other third parties out there. We've created many existing third-party integrations, DocuSign, Nuforma, Asana, Essential, and many, many more. We're creating more all the time. So chances are, if there's a product out there or a service that has an API, we can absolutely connect to it and interact with their data in different ways based on your needs. I'm going to touch on this. I won't go into too much detail, but I want you to know that we are experts in the industry. Our trainers, our internal consultants know AE best practices, and that's how they implement the software. We do offer those comprehensive data conversions, and they are some firms think about bringing their data in as a necessary evil, but we provide a chance to right, past wrongs, to improve your data, to clean it up on those conversions. So it's a big value add with coming on board with Clearview and InFocus. We also offer ongoing relationships to make sure that you're getting all the value that you want out of the software for consulting and learning it. Oh, we also offer over 24 hours of video-based training on the support site so that it can minimize the cost of your startup costs of initial training. Also, you can offer it to new onboards, as they come on board, or if you're implementing new features in the software, you can utilize it for that as well. Okay, so that brings us to the demo. Before we get into the software, I just want to make sure and check to see if we have any questions. If we don't have any questions, we're going to go ahead and move forward, run through the software. I'm going to show you the user interface to give you a baseline understanding of how the software is laid out. I'll jump into some dashboards to show you how powerful those are. We'll go through the process of entering time and expenses, monitoring and controlling projects, generating invoices, and then really anything else that you want to see. I encourage you to let us know if you have questions or comments. We'd love to hear them, and we can address those through the demo or at the end in a general question and answer session.
Okay, I don't see any questions, so.
Okay, great.
I don't see any questions, but I did want to touch on the support aspect because, if anything, I'm not using the software, but anytime I've ever reached out to InFocus support, whether it be for, a software glitch or, moving a database. Moving databases, from server to server is kind of a hassle. And, I've always reached out to to your support, and they're always willing to jump in, help me move things around, and put me back on the right track in a really timely fashion. So I can say, the support is top notch.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into InFocus. So I've pulled up InFocus on the screen. I'm currently launching the software as a system administrator, so that means I have all access to the system. The system is designed for enterprise, so we realize that you're going to have potentially different roles or groups of users that use different things. You have control over that within our permission system. Based on permission access, that can restrict what you see in the software. Again, I'm logged in as a system administrator, so I see everything, but your users might see just a subset of what I see here in the navigation. Before I get into the navigation, I do want to define what InFocus is, the application itself, as far as how it's delivered. As Kevin mentioned, you can have it hosted in your own environment. We offer it as a classic self-hosted license purchase model. You buy the licenses, host it in your own environment. You can make it available to the internet so that users can log in remotely. Or the other option is just a cloud-based SaaS option where it's a monthly subscription fee, where we host it for you, take care of backups and things like that. Either way you go, the software is the same. It will work the same way. On the cloud, we offer some additional features that are, cloud-based, like high availability in the backups and sandboxing and stuff like that. But as far as the functionality of the software, it will be identical.
There's also a phone app too, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I'll actually bring that up here shortly once we get to time and expense.
Great, thanks.
So logged in, I addressed permissions. Over here, we have the navigation. Anything that I click on here is what we call a module. The modules are not licensed elements of the software. They're just set up for logical arrangement and permissions. So I can click on a module and then I'll see any applets that are available to me under that module. For instance, if I want to enter my timesheet, I'll click on my personal module. That's where the timesheets live. If I click on the timesheet, then it will load my current timesheet into its own tab. Any of the applets that you click on will load into their own tab. This is a big improvement over most software out there. InFocus is tab-based, so it means that when you open anything, it loads into its own tab, and it's easy to switch gears. It's easy to flip back between different applets, particularly at firms where you've got project managers and accounting staff who are in and out of different areas of the system during the day. This makes that transition really easy without managing 100 windows.
Mm-hmm.
So on the dashboard, this is my default tab that I have open. You can specify your own favorites here if you have different applets that you want to load automatically. With this dashboard, I've got a number of interesting dashboards set up that I have access to. You also control this. You can set up dashboard groups and define who has access to what dashboards. The initial dashboard that we're looking at right here is a CFO dashboard example. This gives me some nice summary metrics that any CFO would like, quick real-time access to, like cash, AR balance, unbilled, backlog, effective multiplier, staff utilization. You can even unpack this a little further by clicking on the tabs here. We've got some detailed tabs to show you that unbilled detail, backlog, staff utilization. And then down here, you'll notice that this dashboard actually has a date slider. So I can decide what window I want to look at here. And this dashboard is an example that comes right off of our marketplace. You can download this dashboard from the marketplace. There's many great examples within the marketplace. And I'll show you, actually, let's take a peek over at that real quick. So if I go out here, go to my dashboard widget area, I can browse this, click on any dashboard that I want to see, and then download it into my system. Now, these dashboards aren't static, so they're real time, and they're based on my my design. So I can go in and change it. So I have the opportunity to actually go into the analytic dashboard designer and change the view of it. I can change the charts that I want to see. I can even write one from scratch based on our data models. So it's a very, very powerful tool to report on and visualize information in InFocus or even outside of InFocus. So that's one dashboard. Let's go to a couple other examples. So revenue forecasting. This dashboard just came out in January. This has been incredibly popular. We've actually got a webinar on this dashboard alone on our website at clearviewsoftware.net that you can check out to give you the summarized version of it, the quick version. This dashboard shows you a list of all the projects that you have within the date window that you have specified. And what it's doing is it's taking the contract value of your projects and your second level phases and spreading those over start and end dates. So it's showing you exactly where your revenue would fall. Now, I've talked to firms that say, we are doing this by hand in Excel, and it's taking me 4 hours to collect this data every month. This is available in real time with no input from you. If you've got projects set up, then they can show here in this view. You can expand this to see, a larger view of that, I can even flip over and see the raw data. So if I just want to see per project what we're looking at, what we're spreading out, I could see it here at the project level, or I can look at it at the phase level. With our dashboards, they chain filter, so you can set up filtering. So clicking on one dashboard here, or one element, one grid in this case, will filter the next grid down, the phases, the charts, any connected charts. So now I'm looking at forecasting on just this one project. I could export this if I want to insert this into some kind of presentation. I can also change the forecasting model. So we're looking at a straight forecast. You could do this as a front load, back load, or bell curve. And I'll stress this again, this is a really simple forecasting method here. We're just spreading out revenue or anticipated billing. If you wanted to do this based on some other kind of formula or input from your project managers, maybe you want to collect information about what they anticipate you'll bill or what their percent completes are, things like that, you could collect this data in those screens and then incorporate that into this dashboard. Another dashboard is our opportunity forecast. So you could forecast the revenue based on opportunities, based on win probability and things like that. I don't think a lot of firms are doing that, but this is our opportunity forecast. What we're doing here is we've got a marketing area of InFocus where you can enter opportunities for like proposals or chasing work, things like that. And then this dashboard takes those opportunities, gives you visuals on where those opportunities are in their stages, who owns them, what the total revenue is for all opportunities, and what the forecasted revenue is based on the win probability that we have on those opportunities. And then we can see the detail of those specific opportunities. We can see what size each stage is here. And this is all drillable. So if I just want to filter down to projects in the lead stage or proposal stage or opportunities in those stages, then that will filter my list. So right now I've got one in shortlisted. It filtered to that demo here. And I could look at this on a date range. I could look at it back and see what our success rate is and things like that. So we could spend all day on dashboards. Essentially, what I want to communicate is that there is a ton of flexibility here that comes very close to matching analytic packages like Power BI and Tableau and Domo, and it's built into InFocus. And we have written our own data models because we understand our data. So it can really expedite you setting up good, valuable, insightful dashboards that are actionable, that you can actually do something based on. So if you have any questions with dashboards, I'd be happy to address those right now. Otherwise, we're going to move into time and expense. If you have questions at the end, we can always circle back and I can show you how the dashboards are set up and managed and how they're rolled out, things like that.
So if somebody wanted to jump over to the dashboard after this and sees one of these dashboards that they like, they look it up, how easy is it to install? Is it just like an app, you click on it and boom, it's there? Do you have to download it and install it, anything like that?
Yeah, so on the marketplace, it's set up similarly to the Apple App Store. Each dashboard will have its own little get button. You can click on that. That will make it available in the marketplace applet. So we have this marketplace purchases applet. You can see all the dashboards that have been gotten on our marketplace, and you can install them right from here. Once you install them, then you're going to define who has access. You can define those permissions. So you're not sharing sensitive data with the wrong group.
Great. There, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Now, I should mention that I said all the extensions are free and in InFocus on the marketplace. You can download those. The marketplace is also where we have service. So you can book service if you need training time or consulting time. You can book that there. The only thing that we're charging for is people's time. So if you need training or installation help with something, then we would bill for that. But all of the scripts that we put out there are free to download. Okay, let's go ahead into time and expense. So if you're on QuickBooks, then you're probably collecting time in spreadsheets or T-sheets or some other third party, and then using that for your bill reviews, and that can be cumbersome and disconnected. With InFocus, the time and expense sheets are built into the software, and that makes a lot of sense because that's where you're setting up your projects. That's where you have your rate schedules that define bill rates and job cost rates and things like that. So it's very connected. It's real time. When I go into my timesheet, I may see a screen similar to this. You can set up your own timesheet period windows. So mine here is Sunday to Saturday, shown in columns, and then we have rows for our projects. The top 3 projects that you see here are my indirect projects. Those are paid time off projects. So I have sick, vacation, holiday. These are defined at setup, so you can use whatever name that you want. If you just have a PTO category, you can define that. InFocus supports benefit accrual management, so it will calculate the accrued, it will manage those counts, debit what's used, and show your staff the balance in real time. Lots of firms are handling this on a spreadsheet, unless they have a payroll system that handles it. This means that eliminates it so that employees don't have to go to HR, don't have to go to accounting to see what those values are, and they can use them right on their timesheet right now. So if I want to add other projects to this timesheet, I can do that a couple of different ways. I can browse out to my list of projects that are available to me. I can filter per client, and then I can select the level of the project that I'm working on. I can also enter part of the name or number, and that will populate and show me a drop-down list or autocomplete of what I've typed. I can also add recently used projects, scheduled projects, or even just copy from a previous timesheet. I can pull in data like comments and hours if I want. Lots of firms, especially like field staff, might work on the same projects week to week. That makes this a lot easier to do. Also, with regard to comments, if you have comments, maybe you have projects that require detailed comments on time entries, you can go in here and add those comments right there. It does spell checking, so I get a little red squiggly, and then I can fix that. And then any of my comments will show highlighted in yellow. Now with the invoice designs, the invoice template will define how the invoice is generated and the detail that's displayed there. You can have an invoice design set up to display the detailed comments, even on a fixed fee project if you needed that backup detail. Up here, there's another button that's of interest. It's the billable percentages button. In InFocus, you can define target utilization rates for staff, and then they can see what their current month and year-to-date actuals are. This is great because it can bring them into the conversation. If you want to share this information with them, lots of firms will use this for their revenue budgets. For instance, if you know how many hours an employee works, maybe it's 2,080, 80 or minus vacation, things like that. You know what their average bill rate is, and you know what their utilization rate is. You know how much revenue they should be generating for the company. You can base those budgets on that and then track it within InFocus. All right. When I'm done with my timesheet, I can save it, submit it. That will be made available to my approver. If it's approved, then it's immediately available for bill review. If it's rejected, then that can come back to me and give me the opportunity to fix it. Flipping over to expense sheets. Expense sheets are very similar to timesheets. You can enter your expenses, tie them to projects. The expenses can have defined expense codes with those. The expense code can bring in their own unit rate, markup type, markups, and then I can define comments on the expenses that I've entered here. I can also attach documents. So if you want to attach receipts to this, you can drag and drop receipts right into the system. Document management is available throughout the system. So if you want to attach contracts, proposals, RFPs to projects, W-4 forms to employees, W-9s to vendors. You can do that right in InFocus. It's great for financial documentation, archival, things like that. All right, and as promised, I told Kevin that I was going to bring over the mobile view. Let me grab that real quick, and I'll put that in a little virtual iPhone here. So here I am on my virtual iPhone. I'm going to log in with my user account here. When I do that, it's going to pull up my time and expense sheets, and because I'm an approver, I can also see the approval section here. So even your supervisors or project managers can see sheets that are out there for approval. They can drill into them, see what's on them, and then mark them approved or rejected right here. Back on time and expense, I can enter timesheets, I can update timesheets, I can do the same thing for expense items. And then one really nice thing with the phone is that you can launch your camera app and take pictures with the phone and attach those to the expense sheet directly. And it's real time. The moment it's uploaded, it would hit that the InFocus database.
Very nice.
That's very handy.
Mm-hmm.
Wish we had that.
Yeah, and that's included in the cost of InFocus.
It is.
Not an extra.
Every feature that we're looking at here is included in our single license.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this is the current version of mobile right now. In the next release, due out around June, we're going to have dashboards made available. So the dashboards that we just went through, the analytic dashboards, you can make those available to mobile and view those on the go. And then we'll also have a work order feature that's going to be available, and our action feature that's available. So you can create actions we use for wizard-driven data collection. So for instance, instead of teaching a user how to go through the project applet user interface to create a project, you can just prompt them for the data they need. They don't have to learn anything. Just start it, a quick project, and then it will tell them what to enter. And we'll be able to do that in mobile.
Nice.
So from here, and maybe we'll circle back to project creation if you'd like to see what that looks like and want to see what the actions look like. But right now, I'd like to jump over to Project Central and show you how project managers can interact with the system. One way they can interact with the system. And before I was an employee of Clearview, I was a customer of Clearview, and the deciding factor for me coming on board, my firm that I worked for at the time, was this applet. It was called Project Central. Our firm was struggling with project managers. We couldn't get buy-in because everything they needed was in reports, and they couldn't remember where the reports were, how to get them. They were cryptic. They were not fun to look at, things like that. They wouldn't use any of the interface within the software that we had. So this Project Central area was developed for InFocus circa 2013, I think. What it does is it gives staff the ability to see all of their projects in a similar way. When you open up Project Central, you'll see a list of projects that you have access to. This is our record navigator. You can use this query to specify what projects that you want to look at. For instance, if I want to look at all active projects or group projects by a certain data point, like by client or market or something like that, or if I want to use the projects with WIP or backlog, this is very useful because these are the projects that I want to review for billing, everything that has unbilled transactions on them. So it's showing me that filter, and then I can navigate through those projects just by clicking on them. When I click on them, it will load into this overview tab and then show me a list of metrics on the left. So I've got profit and loss, budget and scheduling, accounts receivable, and purchasing if you're using purchasing. And then any of the metrics that you see here can show you a date range for current year to date or inception to date, And then they can also display visually in the charts here. And you're in control of these charts, so you can define what metrics are most important to you. Right here, I've got 3 metrics displayed in this one. That's my overall contract value of this fixed fee project. The budget value, I've got an internal budget. Maybe I've got a budget that I'm trying to beat. And then I've got the effort. That's all of our transactions, all of our time, expenses, vendor invoices at bill rates. So I can see, you know, what the billing amount would be if this was like a time and materials. And then back to this grid, you can see that all this data is summarized, but it's also drillable. So for instance, if I want to see the detail of the hours here, I can see 116 hours. If I double click on that, then a window will fly up from the bottom that shows me the actual detail of all those time entries on timesheets. It'll show me the date it was entered, the person who entered it, the level of the project, the number of hours, billing amount, comments, and then a status that shows me if it's submitted or approved or not on a timesheet. So again, I'll point out this is real time. So the moment a time entry goes on a timesheet, it will show up here. So your project managers can see what's going on the project in real time. If they see, you know, something, they can talk to the staff member even before timesheets are submitted or, you know, posted in the system. You can also leverage these grids. These grids are available throughout the system. You can move the columns around just like in Excel. You can decide how you want to filter the information. I could filter to a specific staff member. Maybe we want to see, you know, we think they're sandbagging or milking the clock. Then we can see that here and how many hours they're entering. We can also define the columns that we want to see in this grid. So if it's too much data, I can hide some of those columns. I can even create my own custom columns if I want. And then I can export any of this data to an Excel, text, CSV, or any format that I want via keyboard shortcut. So that's the first tab of this screen. Very useful. You can get insight on your projects, where they're at. This is also where we can do bill review for project managers. When I click on a project, I'm going to see any unbilled transactions related to that project, and I can review them. And there's different features here that allow me to communicate or interact with our billing staff as a project manager. So, and I should point out that there are different workflows for this. So if you're coming over from a legacy ERP system and everything you did is report-based and you want to continue using reports for reviewing billing, you can do that. We've got a batch report, or project managers can run their own report and look at that report and then mark it up, redline it, and then hand it back in. Or if you want to use the online interface that I've got here, your project manager can go in here, specify the as of date that they want to look at the project for. Maybe it's the as of the date, last day of the previous month. I can see all of the unbilled transactions that are there, expenses, vendor invoices, timesheets. I can enter comments that would show up on the invoice itself. I can also enter instructions to my billing staff at the header level, so that I can just say bill everything listed below except, and then I can do that also at the line item level. So I could say write this one off, hold this one, move this to another project or phase, or you can even give project managers access to make some of these changes for you. So if you're going to give them access to move transactions, it's a couple of button clicks and we can move a transaction in the wrong place to the right place. Also, you can change statuses. So if I want this transaction to not hit this invoice, then what I'll do is select it and change the status to hold. And that would mean that now this will be held to the next invoice run. It won't show up on the invoice that I'm about to generate. And then if I want, I can just see an example invoice. I can go in here and see what the draft of this invoice would look like just by clicking on Invoicing, Current Invoice, and then that would pull it up for me. Now, that's pretty straightforward. If it's time and materials, it's going to obey those entries. If this is some sort of fixed fee contract, percent complete, or lump sum, then you can enter that data on the contract tab. Here I can enter my percent completes, lump sum values. This will update the draft invoices so that I can see what they look like even before I go back and mark this project as reviewed so that our billing staff can get those invoices out the door. All right, so we've covered how a project manager might interact with billing information. Over here, I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't know how many accounting staff are here, but I do want to show you exactly how InFocus can really automate the process of generating invoices. Once they're reviewed, once changes are made, if we need to override rates or change bill hours, things like that, then I can go in here to automated invoicing and run it for all projects that are ready to be invoiced, or I can run it for a subset of projects by department, project manager, things like that. And that will go out and pick up all those projects. It'll look at all the unbilled transactions on those projects, look at the invoice design and the settings that I've set, and then generate draft invoices for me. So that's what this is doing right now. So I'm 100%. I've got 18 draft invoices. It shows me summary detail like the firm, the project, the labor, the hourly labor, the expenses, the consultant fees, the overall fixed fee, the total of each invoice, and then the total for the invoice run. I can view these invoices individually. I can click on those and see what a draft invoice looks like. Here's another example. Here we've got about 40 baseline invoice designs on our marketplace. You can download those, customize them further, change fonts, change colors, change or insert logos, things like that.
Are you able to edit those invoices at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So what this is doing is it's generating the invoice from the data within the database. If there is something that I want to change, like maybe I catch a mistake here and say, oh wait, we didn't have invoice printing here, I'm going to go back to that bill review tab and then make that change. Maybe I need to move it off or switch it to a different expense code. Maybe it was the wrong code. So I would just do that in the bill review, reset this, and then run it again to reprocess.
Thank you.
So if I've reviewed this and it all looks good, then I can process all these invoices together, or I could select a subset. I'm just going to do one real quick. I've selected that. I'm going to assign it an invoice number that will get the next sequential number based on my formula. Right here, you can see that I'm using like a project prefix and then a pad number behind that. This could be based on a full company number or the overall database number. So there's different methods for numbering the system records automatically within the software. I'm happy with it, so I'm going to go ahead and post and archive it to the system. This is going to insert a sales journal. So that is entered in the system, and then it's going to attach a PDF of the invoice that was created. That invoice will also be attached to the project record and the client record. So anyone with access to those records based on their permissions can go in, see that invoice. Maybe a client wants a reprint. They can send those without going back to accounting.
There's a question here from Colleen. She wants to know if this can produce AIA billings.
I don't have a default AIA format like the AIA format. I think we've created custom versions of that within our custom solutions department. So we could talk to them to to ask them what it would cost to get that set up for this, but we can do it.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sure. So let's see. The next step here is maybe emailing it to the customer. Maybe we don't want to print out these and send them via snail mail. You can pull this up and it will define the email based on the invoice email associated to the project or the client record. And I can email these all in one batch. So it's going to show all the invoices that have been processed and deliver those invoices to the appropriate client. Also, let me drill into the sales journal. So this is the accounting record for this invoice. I can see here that it's unpaid. We track status of that, which is really nice. When it is paid, then we'll see this update to partial or fully paid. And then you can click on that and then hyperlink to the payment journal entries very quickly. Also, when this was generated, we linked all the production transactions to this invoice. So if you had expenses, vendor invoices, things like that, they are related. And that's done, obviously, so we can job cost and see the value that was related to the invoice. If we made a mistake, we can actually go in and modify this after the fact. Maybe we did work that was out of scope, and we've since gotten a change order, and now we can bill that somewhere else. I could go in here, check these boxes, and unlink this transaction that would return it to an unbilled state, and then I could create a new invoice for it. Or maybe the reverse happened. Maybe we billed it and then we realized after the fact that there was something that should have been attached to it. We can go in and add a transaction to it after the fact. Also, within the accounting system, this is real time. If you're used to a legacy ERP system, you may not be used to a lot of flexibility. Our period system is very flexible. It allows you to set up periods, specify what's open, what's closed, just with the checkbox. I can see the different GL periods here. This is a pretty new concept for anybody that's just familiar with QuickBooks. With QuickBooks, everything's date-based. So if you want to be able to lock down your transactions so they can't be modified, those past transactions can't be modified, you need some kind of period system here. And we're doing this right here, and we can specify what's open, what's closed. Also, in our journals, we keep auditing of those. So if they were to change for whatever reason, you'll see a snapshot. So I'll see right now I have version 1 of 1, but updating this would show version 2 of 2. So I can see what the previous version is versus the current version. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the main areas of the system that I wanted to touch on. There are some other interesting areas there if there's interest with this group to see, for instance, marketing, human resources, accounts payable. I'll go ahead and throw it out to the audience to tell me what they'd like to see, and we can touch on that with the remaining time that we have left.
Okay.
Well, one of the things I wanted to touch on, and I saw it in one of those invoices that you brought up, it had like, print, it had a price there for prints. And I know a lot of our companies, the companies we deal with, they do print audit, type of things like audit, Argos and print audit. So is there an integration with those types of products that would be able to link those projects to the print, or the printing to those projects, so that it's automatically brought into InFocus?
Absolutely. We integrate with every print auditing software company that I'm aware of. So CP Align, Print Cut, something like that, and others. So yeah, we can absolutely do that. Some of them are just importing the export from that auditing software. Others have automated it even further so that that auditing software drops the export in a certain place, and InFocus picks it up on a schedule.
Okay. And then another thing I wanted to touch on, using InFocus as your CRM, is there any integrations with something like Office 365, so that if you're putting in somebody into the CRM into InFocus, and you wanted to say, call that person on your phone and have that automatically integrated, or email that person, is there any kind of integration with like Office 365 in the program itself?
So we've built out many integrations to date. Office 365 is in testing right now. It's not ready for prime time, but we are working on it.
Okay,
we have
great.
done other integrations with other CRM third parties. Cosential is a popular one in the AE space. We have integration with them. We've integrated with HubSpot. We've worked with Salesforce. So we can connect to other systems and push and pull data.
That's great. Great. Thank you. Looks like Dennis has a question here. What about payroll processing and wage tax payments, currently using QuickBooks Assisted Payroll?
Sure. So in Focus, we're managing all the timesheets, potentially all your pay rates, and under our human resources area, we have a payroll export. So you can define the start and end dates for the pay period, and then export optionally the rates, your accrual information for your employees, or a subset of your employees based on the payroll groups. Once you export that, you can bring that into your payroll vendor. When it's processed, they can provide you a payroll summary export, and then you can bring that back into InFocus into the GL. Now that is the standard method. We also have vendors that we're working with, that we're integrating more tightly with. In fact, there's we've integrated with ADP, Paychex, a small vendor called Pinsoft, and then a new vendor, ProLiant, that says that they will actually even pull our timesheets. So we're just working with them right now to set that up, and essentially they're going to go in during payroll processing and then pull the timesheet data for all staff in that range, so that there's no user input or operation to get that data from one place to another.
Okay. There's a question from Diane. I'm sorry, Dinah. Can you do the following in the accounting portion of the software? Write checks, record bank transactions, list all accounts, including equity accounts.
Sure, absolutely. So under the AP area, we have AP check writing. AP check writing will look at all the purchases out there that have not been paid yet, and you can filter, this based on some of your selection settings here. If you want to pay via a specific bank account or pay from a particular AP account, and then when I next through this is a automated applet similar to automated invoicing. It's going to pick up all those purchase journals that are out there, all the detail. It will summarize the payments together if you like. So here I've got six purchases from ABC company. It's going to group those together so they go on one check if I want, or I could separate that out and cut separate checks depending on what I want to do. I can also pay these via EFT. So I can run through the process, print some checks out, and then generate an EFT file to upload to my bank for those payments. The next was record bank transactions. Yep, we've got a bank reconciliation applet, so you can use your bank statement or download and reconcile those to the database. And then, of course, it's a full accounting system. It's a very advanced accounting system. We've got flexibility with financial statements, journal and general ledger reports. We've got a financial statement designer, whereas you might be used to, in some accounting systems, having a native report and that's it. Within InFocus, you can really go in, you can run the standard but you can also go into the designer, make a copy, or change the standard however you like. And you can run your reports against your budgets, your current period, your year-to-date periods, last year periods. There's a lot of flexibility there. Or you can use dashboards for it too. One example here that we didn't touch on in the initial dashboard area is I've got a GL forecasting dashboard that we set up, really simple. It's showing you all of your accounts grouped by financial type. I could double click on this and see the detail below per account. This is showing me some visuals on my current actual to budget per account selected. And then also my year-to-date actual versus budget, and then a simple projection based on the previous actuals and then the remaining budget for the year.
Very nice. I'm jealous. I wish we had something like this.
All right. Well, it looks like that's all the questions.
Yep, that looks like that's it.
I'm sure if anybody has any extra questions, they could either email them to us and we'll pass them on to you. That way, if anybody wants to get started in InFocus, they have just want to pick up the next steps. What would be the next steps? I mean, if somebody wanted to reach out and get some more questions, is there a specific phone number or email that they should reach out to?
Yeah, absolutely. So on our website, let me pull it over real quick and I'll show you. Clearviewsoftware.net. We have our contact information listed up here. You can give us a call directly, or we've got information request here if you want to schedule something out. Here on the learning page, we also have a regularly scheduled intro webinar. This occurs most Thursdays. Lots of firms, the first time they see it, they want to bring other users back, other people at their firm. So if you want to send them to one of our intros, you can register for that here. We've also got some other webinars coming up and then some recorded webinars that are out there to show you what cool things we're working on.
Great. Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Gerald. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, I think I see one more question. Kevin, am I seeing another one here?
Project planning in the proposal stage and staffing, how to do this.
Okay.
So project planning is a pretty big feature in InFocus. I think we probably too much to go into right now since we're over time. But it is very flexible, it's very comprehensive, and it's similar in its configuration to Microsoft Project. The power here is that it's embedded in our software. So you're getting real-time stats on performance, on time being spent on your projects, things like that. And you can schedule your staff and see those schedules across the board in our resource scheduler area. So it gives you a utility where you can load balance with your project managers.
Very nice. Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to us. We can direct you in the right direction. And Gerald, again, thank you so much for joining us and showing us InFocus. It was very interesting.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Kevin?
Have a great day, everybody.
Words? Nope.
Nope, no other questions. Do we have a webinar coming up next month?
We do not, but I do think that we should do a cybersecurity webinar because there are some things that have been happening recently that we should probably direct everybody's attention to and make sure that everyone knows all these different little ways that people are trying to hack us.
Yeah, not only that, but we've also tried out a number of products. I can remember the first or second cybersecurity seminar that we did. Somebody had brought up a password manager, and we've recently tried one out. We really like it. So, yeah, I think that would be a good thing either next month or the month after, just depending on time. But again, Gerald, thank you for your time. Sandra, as always, thank you for being here. And everybody have a fantastic day.
Great. Take care. Bye-bye.